So we jump into chapter 44 this week, and we see that now Joseph is testing his brothers. Now, so I love this chapter because this is almost like a redemption chapter. It is the chapter that reveals the heart of the brothers. And so some people could say, well, why would you like a chapter where Joseph is trapping his brothers? Because I don't see it as a trap. I see that Joseph had endured many years of pain and struggle because of his brothers. And probably to get where he was and to have this favor with God, we know that God steps in when bitterness is let go. And so we know that he's probably already forgiven them, even though he hasn't seen them. And so now he's testing their heart. Are they evil still? Do they still have a heart that is about themselves and about their own prosperity? Or are they going to have a heart for their loved brother? And so we see that he puts the cup in Benjamin's sack. The servant goes after them. And I love in verse 9, it says, with whomever your servant's cup is found, not only let that one die, but the rest of us will be my Lord's slaves. In other words, they had confidence in one another. They had a relationship with one another to know we wouldn't do that. This isn't our nature. This isn't how we react. This isn't what we do. But instead, what we find is that this scenario is laid out, right? And so they continue here. And in verse 13, it says, they rent their clothes. And after each man had loaded his donkey again, they returned to the city. And so we see that they come back and they are defending their brother. And they're trying to make this situation right. And so we see that Judah arises, right? And Judah's interesting, and we'll get to that at the end. But it's interesting that Judah arises and tells them the whole story. My dad's already lost this son. If he loses another, he will probably go crazy and die. In verse 31, it says, when he sees the lad is not with us, he will die, and your servants will be responsible for his death, and will bring down the gray hairs of your servant, your father. And so we see that at this point, they are having a heart. They said, we don't want to see our dad suffer anymore. You know, they didn't care the first time when they did this to Joseph, but this time they're like, no, we can't do this. This isn't right. And so we see their change of heart. Verse 33 says, now therefore I pray you, let your servant remain instead of the youth to be a slave to my Lord, and let the young man go home with his brothers. And we see that it's Judah that speaks up and says, hey, send me. And Judah has had a complete change of heart from who he was before. And this is what Joseph is seeing. And so I love this chapter because it's revealing that the brothers have changed too. Joseph has endured. Joseph has been patient. He has done all the right things. But guess what? Even those people that needed redemption and had such a bad story have been redeemed by the change of their heart. And we see that Judah then is the one that carries the line of Christ, right? Of the lineage of Christ to when Christ is born. And so it's interesting that the one that had the biggest change of heart was chosen to be in the lineage of Christ. And so I think it's such a great redemption story that, yes, Joseph has this awesome story and we can see it, we can learn from him, but we can learn from his brothers too. They were stupid, they made really dumb choices, but guess what? In the end, they're redeemed because of their change of heart. And Jesus does that for us. He changes our heart, he changes our outcome. And so today I encourage you. You may say, hey, I've had lots of things, I've messed up, I've done lots of different things. It's not too late for you. God can change your heart and you can have a good outcome as well. So next time we'll jump into chapter 45 and see how this goes once he is before his brothers and what happens. But I want to encourage you, we all are not too late for a change of heart.